Assembling the MCU viewers, producer Tim JT here, heading down the Witch's Road. I don't think we're planning on going too out of timeline here. We know we're a little slow rolling due to personal schedules, but we get the Hulk out recently. Hopefully everyone enjoyed that. But I think Agatha All Along was such a dynamic offering on Disney Plus from MCU. It was worth you and I taking 5 or 10 minutes here just to talk about our feelings about the show, Tim.
For sure. Like I of course, like most people with the MCU after Endgame, I think that the MCU at large kind of they went very, very hard on trying to make things feel important. Look at like Eternals, for example,
Right.
of a movie that everybody like they hyped up, and there's still a giant floating metal man out in the middle of the
Somewhere.
ocean that nobody has said anything about. And it's been 4 years since then. And the pandemic didn't do them any favors either. So they definitely ramped up the exclusivity.
Mm-hmm.
But Agatha All Along is definitely a return to form. And it absolutely relit the MCU fire in my belly to now, like, I'm ready for whatever comes next, which I think
Is Captain America, right?
Captain America: Brave New World, not New World Order.
Yeah,
Cowards.
originally. Yeah, they didn't want to risk the they could have played the, but they don't want to risk the they don't want to risk the copyright issues. Maybe. Yeah, I don't disagree. It's weird for me because obviously, if you're watching this, you probably know the story. But like, I get in very late to all this, so I didn't see a movie in the theater live till after. Like, I think Black Widow was like the first one I saw. So,
I'm sorry.
Yeah, I know. Well, I like Black Widow, but so for me, I don't have like that frame of reference that like, oh, this isn't what it was, because this is just what it's been for me since I've been watching. This, I think the shows have delivered consistently. Honestly, I think it's been the movies that have been a little up and down, and I think they've had to do this weird balancing of like resetting things, introducing new concepts, but also still using the people that hit. Like Spider-Man's still a massive draw. Doctor Strange still heavily involved in things, right? Hulk kind of, in there. Thor had his own movie after, but then they're also trying to introduce, Shang-Chi and the Eternals and different characters. So it's been a weird like half reset. And it sounds like at the recent announcements where they did at the convention that they found a balance. Maybe what do they say they're going to do? Like after next year, because next year's set, it's going to be like 2 movies and 3 shows or something a year. It's something like that where they've settled into a good cadence.
Yeah, and I think what's really going to help them too moving forward after like a post Endgame is really defining the MCU at large into 2 different pockets, where you have the like intergalactic, interdimensional, larger than life combat, and that's where you'll have things like the Fantastic Four, and you'll have Doctor Strange and things like that. But you also, very integral to the comics, but also to the MCU, is the street view, the actual ground view, and that's where we'll get with Daredevil Born Again coming back. I think it's an animated Your Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man.
Well, it sounds like even the Spider-Man movie is going to reboot back into more of a street level story, as he rebuilds himself.
Especially at the end of Spider-Man 3, where it's like the reverse origin story of like Spider-Man has been that intergalactic character, and now he has to make his own suit, and he is a beat level kind of groundling. Which is going to be great too when you start to roll in other facets of Marvel that have been acquired from the Fox acquisition too, because like the X-Men don't necessarily quite fit in that like intergalactic, but they're definitely. I'm looking forward to like the foot traffic of mutants and superheroes and supervillains. But
yeah, it's almost gonna be like you're saying, like 2 universes mixing, and then you kind of have that intergalactic, the street level, and then you got what this was, which is like this magical world,
right?
And it was definitely a dive into I mean, if you're a fan of like witch lore, I guess, you can. I'm sure there are folks that really dug that aspect of it. It was different. It was cool. Something they haven't really explored. And it wasn't even superhero in any way. It was more just like witchcraft and magic, which in its own way is obviously supernatural powers, but it was more of a sci-fi horror type presentation than it was a supercharged superpower version, right? It was more like, hey, she obtained these magical powers by destroying other witches, and we saw her, and obviously this all came about because Catherine Honda slayed Agatha in WandaVision and ended up with her own, own franchise out of it. And they did a great job of um, further putting us in a world that we hadn't really been in yet, which was Westview post Wanda's takeover. Like
Right.
we had post Wanda and Doctor Strange, but we didn't really get that what that town dealt with as part of it, right? Their fallout and how aware they are of what they went through and what it was like. So we do get that as part of this. In this world, right? So we kind of track Agatha's fallout from there, and also as a refresh for those may not have remembered WandaVision, right? She had created her own kids. They are evaporated when the hex goes away, but apparently their souls still are out there somewhere. So as we learn in the show, and I guess we should say, obviously this is spoiler-rific for Agatha all along, but the soul of Billy goes into this kid William, and he, who was dead basically from a car accident. So he becomes Billy Maximoff, and that's revealed throughout. But I don't know, let's talk about characters, and then I want to get to kind of the revelation at the end. But obviously, we know Catherine Hahn destroyed this as Agatha yet again.
Yeah.
Fantastic. But anyone else stand out to you?
Aubrey Plaza as Rio, eventually announced or revealed to be Lady Death.
Yep.
Awesome. I've always loved Aubrey Plaza. Both.
This is the role she was like bored for, right? To play like,
Yeah, definitely. We're definitely trying to scrub away the pain from Legion and bring her into the MCU proper. And if I were Thanos, I probably want some of Lady Death too. If it were Aubrey Plaza, they have not made that. They did not make that connection.
Agatha got a piece for sure.
Oh, for sure. They did not make that connection. But if you know the story, if you know the comic book stories even loosely, Thanos and Lady Death do have a rendezvous. But I think that the casting all around was fantastic. With Patti LuPone being a part of this, a juggernaut on stage with all of her musical expertise, and the other witches too. I'm just looking through the names of the people because I just don't have them. But the actress who played Jen, Jen was fantastic. The actress that played Alice, fantastic, and of course, Billy, like the main coven, so to speak. That group is fantastic across the board. They all played off each other so well.
The whole Marvel woke stuff, right? Which we're not touching on this stuff, but like, I thought that this show also did that really well in presenting Billy as realistic in his orientation, without making like an overt statement that could, I don't want to say backfire, but no, you don't have to. It's just life, right? Like, and that's how they're presenting
People are
him.
different.
That's just what he's doing. This is him.
Right.
Like, so like, and they don't make a thing of it, which I think was the way to approach it. It's like, it doesn't, he's just presented as a human being, right? And so I thought that was done well as part of this too. I thought they knocked it out of the park across the board. You hit all the characters. Deborah Jo Rupp as Sharon was great too, coming back from WandaVision.
For sure.
Tough ending on the Witches Road for her. And they did it without stunt casting, right? You get the usual every MCU show, starting with WandaVision. You get the Mephisto is going to show up, and it becomes a running joke almost every show, right? And Wanda was rumored to be in this one, and some of that comes from Mandalorian and some of the appearances that happened there, right?
For sure.
They didn't need to stunt cast on this show. Like everything made sense. Everything worked within the construct they set it up for. And you create, the next step forward if you're going toward Young Avengers, right? With Billy Maximoff and perhaps Tommy as well. that was set up in a realistic way, how he exists as a person outside the hex. I thought that was well done. They left the door open
Right.
that Wanda could still be alive, right? They kind of
Hmm.
hinted at that a couple different ways. And again, if you're into stuff like black magic or witchcraft, like this really was loaded with it across the board. And the fact that there never really was a witch's road, right? It was just something that, but Agatha wasn't lying. She walked the witch's road with her son, right? Like she had done it
Right.
once before. She said didn't do it alone, but it was in her mind and her creation, the song that she wrote, and then she ended up turning that into a way as a weapon, right, to stay alive
Right.
all those years by killing other witches. So I thought that was a well tied together story. I thought her and Death, the way they tied that together, with them having been a couple and the son being theirs, and Death gave her those extra years when she shouldn't have. That she did care for her in the end, and the way they end up, splitting up is kind of rough on Death at the end, with Agatha basically saying, the deal is you'll leave me alone forever. So like I thought all that paid off well. I don't know how into the concept of Agatha being a force ghost I am.
Oh, I love it.
Yeah,
I love it.
we'll see where it goes, I guess.
Yeah, like I think it's one of those things where she's like of this world but not of this world, and because you also have to think too, maybe it's Billy seeing things.
Right.
We've kind of established in this series that Billy's powers, while very uncontrolled, are very strong,
Well,
much
he
like
created the
her
whole Witch's
mom's.
Road, right? I mean, we didn't mention it, but
Yeah,
the whole thing
like
wasn't real. He manifested the entire thing, and that reveal was really well done. When I don't know if you knew that was coming, I didn't pick up on it all until
no.
he's in the room and he starts looking at everything and realizing, he created this in his head based on all these things he had in his life.
This was something I talked about with my wife. So Billy had not been in William's body long enough, in my estimation, to actually pick up the things.
Right.
So while on the road, we had the merging of William and Billy,
Right.
where William's consciousness like kicks in. And so it just showcases the power of Billy Maximoff as to just conjure all of these things that a third person technically loved, aspired to,
Yeah.
had a fascination with, and conjured all of it. And so it makes me think that maybe Wanda is a conjuring too. And either way, I think it's really awesome. I
I mean,
love
they
going back.
seem to set up a second. Like I mean, they're like, let's go find Tommy. And I guess it'll come down to, do they do this before any kind of Young Avengers stuff? Because if Tommy's going to be in that, they're going to have to get to that,
Right.
or does Agatha make it to a movie at this point? I don't know, like where that's headed, but
I don't know if Agatha needs to be in a movie, but we definitely could get like a Wiccan series
Mhm.
with Billy and like Wanda. And even if you wanted to reprise Aubrey Plaza's character as Death, like to bring her back in, just as like, yes, Agatha said to leave her alone, but like she's still on the outskirts. And I think that Death is such a good enough character
Mhm.
that she could be a part of that. But you have to do something with Wiccan
Yeah.
now.
Yeah, oh yeah,
Um,
that's gonna happen. And whether it's Young Avengers or his own standalone show,
yeah,
they have to move forward with that.
I think it's both.
And it's tough because you don't want to say every character needs to be in everything and have a spin-off, but when you create these shows and they have these strong, well delivered performances, and the character didn't, like Agatha didn't get a ton of shine in WandaVision, but she was so compelling, it was worth it. I mean, you could say the same for Lady Death. It's like, man, that could be a whole, thing, but it's like how many, they got so much room. Like we just talked about 10 things already that they have to take
Right.
care of. Like, where does that even fit in? Um, is it its own show, or could they explore the concept of like hour-long Disney Plus movies, right? That are not a full movie in theatrical release. It's not an 8-episode show, but could they do a standalone special that looks at the history of, Death at Agatha, whatever it is, right? That becomes part of canon. So they have ways they could go with it. But yeah, this to me, absolutely delivered. I guess we'll tease right in the coming week or so, Tim. We're gonna do an MCU Disney Plus show tier ranking. So be curious
Yeah.
where this lands, because I don't want to be a, I don't want to be a slave to the moment, right? Oh, recency bias, but man,
Right.
it's gonna be up there for sure. And they definitely have a couple of characters that could, and even Jen, like the way she blasted off, like it felt like she's going to something that we're gonna see like somewhere, right? Like it didn't
Yeah.
feel like that was just her goodbye. Like it felt like a point was being like she was going somewhere on purpose to do something. So
Yeah. When she got what she wanted, what she needed off the road,
yeah,
she was kind of
on a mission.
transmatted out of the road,
Then she's
and
like,
it
oh, like
used,
she
yeah,
knew where she was going, like to go do something. So like it just feels
for
like
sure.
they don't leave those breadcrumbs unanswered generally.
No, it may be a
So,
while
right.
looking at you, floating man in the ocean
Well, I
from
think that
Eternals,
I think that
the
Eternals,
Celestial.
the overall performance of Eternals didn't help things, but which again to me was, it was a fine. It was just long. It was a
Yeah.
tough, anything coming after Endgame was going to be hard. It was going to be hard for them, like
Mm-hmm.
especially
For
when you're
sure.
introducing new characters. Like if Spider-Man did okay, but anything
Right.
else, you know, is what it is. But
Yeah.
so all right, well, any final thoughts on Agatha? I mean, I think we both loved it, delivered in spades.
Yeah, and I think what really helped it too was the timing of the release coming out during like the Halloween like
Yeah, it was perfect.
witching
Yeah.
season. It is perfect. More of this. Um like I said at the very top of this, I think the MCU, especially the TV side, has really figured itself out. Like
Hmm.
not to say like the shows are all bad, but the volume of what they were putting out, whether it was COVID related or not, um we're finally getting like quality stuff, well
Yeah.
written. And if I'm Kevin Feige, I am looking right at the creator, Jack Schaefer, and I'm
Hmm.
just handing over anything that they want to do.
Yeah.
Go take this. uh Jack was responsible for WandaVision, responsible for this too.
Yeah.
um
You just let her run with anything related to this Wanda magical witch lore version of the MCU for sure, and just continue to crush it. So I think there's a lot of potential there, and like you said, the Halloween timing was perfectly done. Like that's the
yeah,
exact season you want to do that. Even the post credits were so good too, with all like the old kind of witch stuff and the
yeah,
houses. Like it had a Stranger Things vibe to it without being directly
right,
Stranger Things, but like yeah, like kind of leaning on old, like the Wicked Witch of the West and all that she had on, and that gear and the different time periods that they did with the houses. So yeah,
right.
all of it really hit. So
And it was kind of weird. There was no post-credit scenes during the entire
yeah, no,
show.
yeah.
Very not Marvel, but I'm
No,
I'm
it
happy
made us
with it.
feel like it's very much isolated in its own little world, which is fine. Like
Yeah, that's
this is a
perfect.
corner, beyond Wanda,
Right.
that can exist on its own. So, all
For
right,
sure.
thanks for watching. Subscribe. We're on TikTok and YouTube. Assembling the MCU. JT, producer Tim, coming at you. What do we got next? We got Iron Man 2's in the hopper. That should be
Yes.
coming in the near future. And like I said, over the next week or so, we're going to do a tier ranker of all the MCU Disney Plus shows. If you have anything you want us to cover, let us know. Leave your comments, your feedback, share the word. Again, we're all in. Talk to you soon. Assemble.